Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're giving our first or second impression of Terraforming Mars, the dice game.
Yes, the third, is it only third game in the franchise?
I believe so. So we had the original Terraforming Mars, which is the big, very popular game.
Yeah,
It's in the, I think it's still in the top 10 on Board Game Geek currently.
yeah, and one of our favorite games.
Yes, one of our favorites. It was my favorite for a while, and Jesse was not sure on it, I think, but then got some more plays of it and became more of a fan over time.
Yeah.
And then we have the second game, which is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, or what other people are calling Terraforming Mars the card game, which is strange considering Terraforming Mars is already heavily driven by cards.
Yes.
But they have that, and that's more of a roll for the galaxy style game
Yep.
where you choose an action and you get to do get a certain benefit, and everyone else kind of does a lesser benefit from that, and kind of go through whichever actions were triggered by the different players. And then we got this one,
Which is
I believe.
the dice game.
Yes.
Which is still a pretty card-driven game as well.
Yes.
It's probably about 50-50, I would say. Although
I would say so.
the dice do just represent the resources, but you are manipulating them enough that I don't mind it being called the dice game. Because one of the
I would
first
agree.
things I read in the rule book, I think it says, like, this is like a card-driven game, and I'm like, are the dice even going to be really involved here? But they are, I would say.
I would agree. But yeah, they do kind of feel like the resources in a way as well, just kind of like that. But yeah, so spoilers right off the bat. Do we think this feels like Terraforming Mars? Do you get that feeling from it? I have my opinions. I can go first if you want.
You can go first.
Okay. Well, I would say out of the three games, so Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition, as I've played it a couple more times, I do kind of feel some of that Terraforming Mars feeling with that one, and I think I still prefer the original Terraforming Mars over that, but that one, I think I can see the connection and feel the connection, whereas this one, and the two plays that we've had of it, I do not feel that way, and I feel like if this had come from someone else and had no ties to Terraforming Mars, I'd feel this, I wouldn't ever be like, wow, this really makes me think of Terraforming Mars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I agree partially with that. I mean, it's the theme, so I'm going to be looking for any connections that I can, and I think that the cards and what they did in Ares Expedition kind of pretty much felt just like Terraforming Mars, just the way the cards worked. And in this one, I feel like that doesn't really work the same. They do feel quite different. I mean, thematically, you're getting some of the same things like events and raising the temperature and things like that. But just it's a lot different, a lot simpler, I would say, in what you're doing with the cards. But Ares Expedition didn't really have a board presence, a map presence on the main board on the Mars planet, and this one brings that back to where you are placing and gaining points based on what you're adjacent to, where Ares Expedition, I believe it was just ocean tiles that you were flipping over and putting on the map. You didn't even have to put them on the map. You just get whatever's on the tile, and it didn't matter for placement. But here, it brought a little bit of that back, so
That's true.
I think that aspect is closer to the original.
But there's no actual controlled presence on the board.
Not controlling it, just initial placement gets you the points. So that area is closer to Terraforming Mars, but otherwise this one does easily stand out as different the most of the three, I would say.
I would 100% agree. And yeah, I would say, after a couple plays, this one also feels way more kind of luck-based, dependent, or not luck-based, but you could maybe just not get cards at all. I know one of your initial complaints when you were playing Terraforming Mars, and one of the things you did not like, and you probably still don't like, and I'm assuming most people don't actually like it, is that there are certain requirements for certain cards, so then at some point in the games may become unplayable essentially. Whereas in this one, there are cards that just aren't as good to play. They're not. I don't believe they're ever unplayable. It's like you could get a bunch of cards that it's like, well, this could give me some production, but I'm very late in the game, so there really is no reason for me to play this because the elements or the resources required aren't something we're fighting for, so there's no reason for that. And then I'm not probably going to produce. Maybe I'll do one more production, and it's like I don't really need those. So I felt in this one there were kind of more cards that I just wasn't all that interested in playing, just based on that. We've only played at 2 players, so that's something to note as well. And because of that, I would say this one is kind of a little more lacking for me, I would say. But yeah, I still enjoy what it has to offer, but I would definitely not, if you love Terraforming Mars, I wouldn't say that there's any reason that you would love this one.
Yeah, and I will say that it is nice to have all the cards being playable. That is pretty nice. But like you said, and with the rolling of the dice, it can be really hard to even be able to play the things. And there are common, uncommon, and rare symbols on the dice. So one symbol is on 3 sides, one on 2, and one on 1. And sometimes I think you rolled like 3 gray dice and got 3 city symbols, which are the rare side, which is just an amazing roll. And one of the core actions you can do for placing cities is to spend 3 of those, which I feel like some of those core actions, especially that one, unless you do get bonus actions in your cards, but again, it is just kind of random what cards you're going to get, which it is in Terraforming Mars as well, kind of what you can do, but it just feels bigger in this one, what you're able to get with those bonus actions to even be able to do a lot of those core actions, like 4 plant symbols, even though those are common, it still feels like a lot to spend to get that core action. And
I would agree.
And there's not really a universal resource, like in original Terraforming Mars, it's coins are... That's going to be a big part of playing any card. Every card has a coin cost, pretty much, and you can get discounts, but this one, just having it be different symbols, it makes it simpler, but it also does make it more complicated in a way, and easier, but also harder in a different way, which I like that it's different, because I think that's one thing with Ares Expedition. It's like, close enough, other than that kind of race for the galaxy mechanic in there, it's close enough that I might end up just wanting to play original Terraforming Mars, where this one I don't ever see myself having to choose between the two.
That's true. Yeah, like I said, I don't think they're very comparable, in my opinion, and yeah, I wouldn't say like, oh, am I going to play this one or that one? I don't think I would think that in my head, but yeah, I think going back to the dice, that's another part of it that's a little more luck driven. In that roll that I did, I was not even trying to get those. So that's the thing in the game too, where sometimes you are trying to get the rare resource, and it feels really good when you do. Sometimes you are trying to just get the common one, and then you roll and you get the rare one, and it's like, I don't have any cards that need that.
Yeah.
So then that, in a way, feels really terrible, because it's like, I don't want to waste this rare resource. Why couldn't I have just rolled the whatever? So that doesn't... It kind of feels grindy, weird for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it should, it'd probably make it too easy then, but if you could...
Everything
everything below it as well. But then it'd probably make it too easy.
Yeah, then that is a guaranteed resource that you might need. But yeah, it would be interesting to have that. I don't know if that could work. I'd like to maybe try it.
I don't know if it would.
But yeah, it'd probably be a little too...
It's just a little unfortunate if you are trying to roll that, the most likely one, and you can't get it.
You don't get a lot of action, so you can do a small action and then a large action on your turn, possibly bonus ones as well, or replacements to those with action cards that you get. But you get one small action and one large action, and sometimes you pick up a die and you're like, it's 50-50 shot to get that most common resource. You roll it, and you get the rare, you get the just uncommon, and it's like, do I spend my last action on the turn to get rid of another die to then flip that die to a side that I want, which just feels like such a waste. But sometimes you really do have to do it instead of just keep picking up dice and not rolling what you need. I just wish there was a little more you could do on your turn. Just like maybe a third action that you could do, I feel like. Because it was just always just a little bit. Sometimes there were satisfying turns, especially if you do get those bonus actions. But there's times, especially near the end of the game, when you have, or at least I had a lot of income and production of dice, and I was like, oh, I want to spend these 3 dice for this core action to get 2 points, and then also I could maybe play a forest tile or increase the heat. But I also have like 2 cards I want to play here, but it's getting near the end of the game, and I know that I'm probably only going to get to do like 2 or 3 of these, so I guess it's kind of good that you don't just do everything you want, but I do wish you got to do a little bit more, especially on those turns that do feel wasted.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, otherwise, I think as kind of an initial score after a couple games, I'd probably be coming in at maybe around like a 6.5, and I'd say my average is about 7, so I would say this one's a little below average. I don't know that this would be one I would necessarily take out all the time, but I'm not like just totally against playing it. I don't think it's like a broken game or by any means, but it's just unfortunately giving it the Terraforming Mars name. Just I don't know if that's actually keeping it higher than I should actually give it to, but at the same time, it's kind of a little grindy both ways because I'm comparing it to Terraforming Mars, and I love that game so much, so it's kind of like, well, this doesn't give me that at all, so I'm going to give it a lower score. But I'll have to play it some more. I don't know that this one would ever be like one of my favorite games, and it's probably, I mean, it's like you said earlier, Ares seems kind of similar in many ways to the original, and I'd prefer the original over Ares. So I'd maybe play this one over Ares just because it feels different.
Yeah.
But if I was recommending one of these two, the Ares or this one, I'd probably recommend Ares over this one, personally. But if you don't mind more luck based and if you want something that's a little bit more approachable, I would say this one's probably the most approachable out of the 3.
And quicker as well.
And quicker, yes.
Yeah, and this introduces a couple things that I do like. I like the bonus cards that you get for getting to like 5 and 12 points on the victory point track. You can kind of first there gets to pick from 4 cards, and then there's 3 left over, and you just get these bonuses that can be various things. It could be like a huge amount of dice. I think they can give you like 5 dice, which is pretty massive, which kind of, if you do get those extra dice, it makes those smaller actions better because you have more to just waste away and manipulate your dice. And then as well, they kind of have variable milestones or goals throughout the game, like first to 5 cards or whatever, which I don't believe in the base game of Terraforming Mars that you can mix those up. I don't believe so.
Yeah, and just the base you can't. But
I think they did introduce it, but I haven't played where you can, so I enjoyed that. But I pretty much agree with most of the negatives that we said here. This is probably coming in at, it's not a low score. I mean, it's probably lower for me. I'm usually in the 8s to 9s. I think it's probably a 7.75 to maybe an 8, but I don't know. It could probably settle around the 7.5 mark. I do enjoy it. I think it has good production with all the custom dice. I enjoy the colors that they chose, and when it does work, and it does feel like you're really getting the rolls you need, it does feel really satisfying to me when you can get some big moves in there, but there are just a lot of not so satisfying moves mixed in there.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, I think it's one worth, looking into. Like I said, if you are looking for something a little bit more approachable, a little shorter. But yeah, if you really love the big game night feel of Terraforming Mars, you're definitely not going to get that out of this. And I wouldn't even necessarily say it's like a small version of that. I feel like we still haven't gotten that because Ares, I think, still is quite
it's
long
still
as
pretty
well.
long. Yep.
So it's like at that point you just play the original. So to me, I feel like we still haven't gotten the small 30-minute, 1 hour version of Terraforming Mars. But I think it's going to be very hard to pull off.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a fair attempt.
Yeah.
It's
I enjoyed
not
it.
a terrible game. Just I was expecting more because of the Terraforming Mars name.
Yeah, probably expecting a little more as well, but
Mm-hmm.
if you get more, then it does get longer and maybe more complicated.
That's
so
true.
I'm decently satisfied with the
Yeah,
product.
it'll be interesting to see if they do any expansions or anything to it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't really looked too much at reviews of it, so I don't know if there's like other people saying these common things, and maybe there's ways they could make some of those kind of negative things better with an expansion. So if that's the case, maybe this one could get a little bit of bump for me.
Yeah,
But we'll
yeah.
have to see if this one is well enough received to get that. I'm not sure if it will or not, but we'll have to find out. So yeah, if you want to get a little better look at some of the components, you can check out our unboxing video. That's going to go up alongside this. But otherwise, we hope to see you on that video. And as always, don't forget to
Keep on nibbling.
on our content.